I'm Peter from Vizzu. It's so great to have you here. And yeah, Zachary.
Yeah, I'm Zachary here from Snowflake, working on the Streamlit team. We're excited to have you here today.
Absolutely. And so actually, this is something we've done only once before together with Zachary at PyData in New York, roughly a month ago, which was like a real life session. So this is the first time we do it virtually. And we've come up with some new ideas on we should. Sorry, Zachary, are you talking? Because you're muted. Okay, so we've come up with some ideas on how to get you involved, and we would want you to be able to build your own first apps in Streamlit with an ipyvizzu chart in it that's interactive due to the using the Streamlit interactive controls. And but we haven't done it before, so you can expect things to be a little like complicated at certain points, but we're here to help you and figure it out. So whenever you have any questions or any issues, just feel free to ask questions or just pop in and yeah, let's see how it goes. I'm not sure how many of you have been in part of the talk that I gave earlier today. Maybe the intro bit from the Vizzu side will be just a rerun for you then, but obviously we would want to get everybody on the same page. So I mean, in the initial Vizzu intro part, you will see some things that you've already saw maybe 3 hours ago. But yeah, it's never, I mean, animated charts always look nice. So I hope you'll still enjoy it. So without further ado, let me show you the Vizzu intro, and then I'll give the floor to Zachary to give you the intro of Streamlit, and then we'll work towards uh, deep diving into some specific examples on how to use the two things together. So I'm just going to share my screen right now. And hopefully you can see it. It should be coming up. Yep, there you go. So first of all, let me give you a quick example of what is possible using Streamlit and ipyvizzu together. So this is a Streamlit app. You can recognize it from the different controls. This is like one app that actually has a lot of different pages. Now we're focusing on this one, where you see an ipyvizzu chart in the center. It shows revenues of different music formats in the US over the years, and the user of the app can just fiddle with these interactive controls, like extending or changing the time frame, changing the value being shown to have the revenue inflation adjusted, switching it over. I hope the animations go through the screen sharing. Switching it over to show the volume, aggregating the values not by year, but rather by format, so show the total values. You can add more formats either with these buttons or using this selection field here. You can, or the user can sort it by value. And so basically, user can generate a lot of different views of the same data set, whatever they prefer, using the Streamlit controls. And also in the background, there's an animated story being created. So if I download it, this is like an early implementation of this feature. Then an HTML file is getting downloaded to my computer. And if I open that up, I will see basically every step that I did. So like extending the time frame to the right, and then adding some years, or like removing some years from the left side, changing it to inflation adjusted, and so on. And so these are all these been all saved as the slides in an interactive presentation that you can go through with these buttons beneath the chart, or and you can even seek the animation. So like really see through very neatly what happened beneath, like between one stage to another. So it's like really super intuitive, at least we hope. And basically, you created, or the user created, an animated file that someone can just send in an email to somebody else, and then basically created this animation for themselves. And so the way it works is it uses, like, from the Vizzu side, is that we built. Sorry for the background noise. I have a 2-year-old back home who's super enthusiastic since it's Santa came today. So we basically have a generic charting engine that can create a lot of different charts and can seamlessly animate between them. That's the core of everything we do. This super flexible chart animation engine, and the reason for doing this is that we're working towards this vision of building a GUI for data that would enable basic business users, so not only experts like you, to explore their data visually, to build these sort of animated stories that you just saw, use it on reports and dashboards, such as the ones that we're about to build, or use it even for forecasting and planning. We initially focused on storytelling, and everything we've done so far is basically, those are open source tools that are available for you for free. The reason why we focus so much on animation is that we think it helps a lot in understanding, especially for non-experts, the connection between different views of the same data set. So if I show you these 4 charts, it might not be obvious what's the connection between them. But if I connect them using animation, then no further explanation is necessary, and it's easy for people to understand the relationship between these two. So just to give you a couple of easy examples, like drilling down to show components of a composite index and the relationship between them is very intuitive using animation, or also to show the parts in a stack chart, and show if, like, one component, in this case the forecasted population of Europe, goes against the global trend. You can also just switch between aggregate and values and distribution over time, just like we did with the music data. You can show change over time using animation and time as an additional dimension compared to static charts. And you can even turn one chart into a whole story just by adding a new feature and then zooming into separate parts. In this case, it's the number of smartphones different companies produced and the revenue that they generated selling these phones. And obviously there are, like, these leagues of companies, and due to the animation you get this sense of magnitude and understand the dynamics of this market a little better. So our technology is built on a C++ core engine that we used in-house, and then we released our first open source tool, a JavaScript charting library, back in 2021. And the first tools for Python users and data scientists, for Python programmers and data scientists, came out March 2022, which we added an extension to back in July 2022, that via which people can create these animated data stories that you can actually build, present, and share from a computational notebooks such as Jupyter Notebook and others. And we have a ton of integrations for different notebooks and other types of tools. And obviously today we're going to focus on the Streamlit integration, which is, I think, the most enhanced, and that's due to Zachary's work, who actually built this integration between these two tools. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to show you just one example how ipyvizzu works. You can follow along easily if you go to this link that's shown now on the screen, um, or you can use the QR code as well. And if you do that, so it's bit.ly/Vizzu-PyData-global, you will end up at this repo folder. In Vizzu Workshops, a separate repo folder for PyData Global. And there are a lot of useful links in the README, the apps that we're going to use, and also the slides from my side and from Zachary. So even after the tutorial, you would have the opportunity to just take and look at and reuse every material that we prepared for you. And within the notebooks folder, you see a couple of example notebooks that introduce you to the concept and the syntax and the logic of ipyvizzu. So just as a quick intro to the ipyvizzu logic, we have one method within the package that you can actually install via pip or conda. That's called the animate method, and if you call it once, you'll get to a static chart, and if you call it once again, then you'll get to then it will animate to a second chart. Obviously, the animation bit is taken care of our engine, so you don't have to worry about that part. You add the data that you want to visualize, the configuration of the chart, and you can set the look and feel of your chart with the style object. And you also have the opportunity to fiddle with the animation options, but we try to build everything in a way that it works out of box nicely. But like, for example, when you build a racing bar chart that I just showed you, you might want to reduce the animation time, the duration of the animation between slides. It's yeah, you just write duration equals 0.1, and then it will be much quicker. So for this first example, where you're going to use the Titanic data set, you can see the data here on the right side. We just added a count column, and we're working together with pandas. You can just import these objects from ipyvizzu. You read the data frame using pandas, the CSV to a data frame. You create an empty data object, and by calling the addDF method of the data object, you will just add the data frame to it. So it's easy as that. And then here we create an empty chart where we set the width and the height, and we just add the data to it. So basically we create an empty chart. The data is already there, but we haven't set up anything yet. And this is the first time where we actually create the chart using the config object within the animate method. And it will create a bar chart with the count on the x-axis and the sex of the passengers on the y-axis, and we also have the label channel, and if I add the count there too, then the numbers also appear next to the bars. And as you can see, ipyvizzu automatically aggregated, summed up the count values here. So you can use different aggregation logics like mean or count, but yeah, it's the out of box or the default value is to sum up the values. And so in the next phase, I'm just going to call the animate method once again and add the survived category to the x-axis and also to the color channel. And this way we create, and as you can see, the transition was obviously animated, stacked bar chart where the people who died in the crash are colored differently than those who survived. Again, the numbers are automatically aggregated and the labels are being repositioned in order to fit the stacked bar chart rather than the simple one that we saw in the previous cell. And so now we have a ton of other options that I'm going to just very quickly showcase. So first of all, let's see just again a simple example, and I'll remove the comments that I'm going to add right now. It is that we remove the survived category from the x-axis. You see it's only the count remains there, and we add it to the y-axis. And this is a transformation where we basically group the elements on the y-axis, and again it happens in an animated fashion. We have also the geometry parameter, and instead of rectangles, the data can be represented by circles. If we do that, we can also add them the count value on the size. Then these circles will have different sizes, and we can actually change the coordinate system to polar to end up in a chart that doesn't make sense anymore. And that can happen, like, in a generic charting tool. You can build charts that no one understands, but obviously this is not something you want to do, but I just wanted to give you a better understanding of how things work here. You can also style the charts. So for example, I'm changing the color palette here by changing the plot mark color palette parameter and adding just a list of colors. And if I rerun the cell, then the markers would have better suiting colors here. And I can also just filter the data like this, and it means that only those traveling on first class will remain on the chart. And again, everything happens in an animated fashion. So this is the first very basic introduction of ipyvizzu that I wanted to give you, and now I'm going to give the floor to Zachary so that he can give you an intro of how Streamlit works.
Thanks, Peter. All right, I'm gonna give a fairly quick intro to Streamlit and give kind of a context of how Streamlit fits with Vizzu and so I assume some of you have probably used Streamlit, some of you have heard of it, some of you haven't yet. So hopefully this will be helpful for a range of people. Let me start here. So my name's Zachary Blackwood. I work at Snowflake. I was part of the Streamlit, and we were acquired by Snowflake a couple years ago. And I work on data engineering there. And part of my data engineering work, the best part, is I get to build lots of Streamlit apps. So Streamlit is a tool to connect data to the rest of the company. So it is specifically built. It is specifically designed so that you can take the data that you have that you want to show to somebody and produce very, very quickly a data app out of it that you can share with other people, that they can explore, that they can use. People who don't want to look at the raw data, who don't want to see just a notebook where you did all your work, but they actually want to see the end result. And the way you use Streamlit is you just write a Python script, and you write a Python script, and it produces when you run it, it produces a web app, and it's an interactive web app. It can have all kinds of things in it. For example, here you see some filters and some tables and some charting. And it really is, it's quite straightforward to get started with. Works with a lot of different libraries. And we've added a lot of different widgets. So here's a few of them. You have sliders, and here you have an example of an Altair chart and a file uploader and a color picker and a date picker and all those kinds of things that you would expect. You can use it with quite a few different libraries. So here are just a few, but essentially, if you have a Python library, you probably can use it with your Streamlit app, and it's very likely it has a first-party integration with Streamlit so that you can even see the output of it right away. So you can take your Streamlit app, you can take your Python script that originally just crunched some code and maybe produce a chart and turn it into a full interactive app using your favorite libraries. So the three core principles of Streamlit is number one, you embrace Python scripting, you treat widgets as variables, and you reuse data in computation. So I'll explain what that means in just a minute. One of the things that I really like about Python is it's really easy to just write a script and run it and have it do something. I don't need to necessarily make a complicated thing with lots of different files and abstractions and classes and objects. I can just write a script that runs from top to bottom, and that's very much what Streamlit embraces. So here you see an example where you have a couple Streamlit commands, st.write, and then a panda command, and then another st.line chart, and that's it. And you don't have to abstract it any more than that. You can just write out what you want it to do, and it runs from top to bottom. When you have something like a slider, you just write x equals st.slider. And then for the rest of the app, whenever x gets used, whenever the slider gets updated, the value of x changes. And I don't have to think, for much of the time, I really don't need to think about the callbacks and what's actually happening behind the scenes, so that when this updates, this changes, and when this updates, this changes. The vast majority of the time, I can just say, I'm going to write the value x, set it equal to a widget, and I'm going to use that for the rest of the app. Another really important piece is, excuse me, is that you want to be able to, much of the time, you want to just run the whole script. Sometimes there are certain things that are slow. There are certain things you really only want to run once, like create a database connection, or grab some data from a URL or from your database. And so we have built-in caching primitives so that you can cache those results, so you don't have to run them every time. So in general, interactions to your script don't cause those to rerun unnecessarily. The thing about Streamlit apps is they're meant to be interactive. They're designed to be things. They're designed to be played with. They're designed to be something that can allow you to explore, which is why it works really well with something like Vizzu. So here's a really minimal example. This does nothing so far. It just loads some data, saves into variable data, and it does cache it so that every time you run it, once you've run it once, it doesn't. If you want that to expire, you can do that as well. But for now, it just grabs some data, saves it in a variable. Now we have a widget that we're adding, a multi-select widget. We have 3 different countries, and we save that value into the value of country. So whatever you set here, if you add a new thing or X one of those out, the value is set in countries. And now we have doing some typical pandas filtering and some SD-write commands, and we've transformed this data slightly. And notice that we're using the output of the countries widget to filter our data. So in this case, we're showing all 3, but if you change the multi-select, it would show ones. It would show different ones. And now we're making an Altair chart, just plotting that data. And there you go. There's the full app, top to bottom. And it's interactive, and you can change what countries they're showing. Of course, you could add other things like filtering by year and things like that. So once you have the basics, there's a lot of ways you can take it. People, it's particularly focused around data apps. So people build all kinds of things, from an app that'll supposedly tell your fortune to a full-on dungeon crawler game. Really not what Streamlit is designed for, but people go crazy with these things. So you can have multi-page apps, for example, where like the examples will show you, where each you have these tabs on the side, and you can switch between different pages. Of course, very popular these days, people want to have chat interactions. They want to interact with LLMs. So we have these native chat components that allow you to not just output text, but output things like charts and things like that. And there's lots of integrations with things like with lots of different LLM tools around that. And people, it's been fun to watch what all people have built using these different models. There's a great forum. People spend a lot of time there. I spend a lot of time there answering questions, and there's great documentation. So if you're wanting to get started, that's a great place to go. There's a gallery that'll show you some kinds of different apps that people make, and again, it's a wide variety of things that people are building. Other thing that Streamlit has for you is a place to host your apps for free. So it's called Community Cloud, and you can take your app that's in a GitHub repo, and with a few clicks, you can have it hosted in a place you can share with the world. But if you want to just get started locally, you pip install Streamlit and run the Streamlit hello. I wanted to also talk very briefly about components, because that's really what we're here today, is talking about the component that allows you to interact with Streamlit and Vizzu together. So if you have a Streamlit app, there's a lot of things that are natively supported, but sometimes there's something that a Python library does or JavaScript library does, and you want to be able to use that in your Streamlit app, right? Kind of natively embedded in Streamlit. So sometimes you can just use it directly. Again, if it's in a lot of cases, you can just use it as is. It doesn't always work, though, particularly with JavaScript-based libraries. You can't always use those directly in your Streamlit app, so you can make a component. So a component is a way to take some Python code or some JavaScript code and turn it into reusable. Essentially, you can make your own widget. So we have various widgets, and you can make your own widget and publish it as a component. So here's some examples of components that people have made to do lots of different things. Here's a blog post, and this slide is linked in the bit.ly link. So if you want to read that blog post about making a component, you can do that. So with Streamlit Vizzu, there's already an excellent JavaScript library underneath, and there's already a Python wrapper to embed it in a notebook. And so I saw this and thought, what if we could hijack that and reuse that? In fact, I've already done this with a library called Folium, so I knew it was possible. It's a great library for for making maps and geospatial visualizations. So I'd already done this with Folium, and I thought, what if we could do it with Vizzu? And so that's what Streamlit Vizzu is. So it's a way to have a Streamlit app with a Vizzu animation embedded, and you can get things out of that. You can interact with it, you can change it, and you can get data. You can get data out of that. We'll have more time for questions and comments, but I'll pass it on back to Peter for now.
Thanks, Zachary. So I'm pretty sure your head is buzzing already. There's been so much content shown to you in such a short period of time. In the next section, we're going to show you some Streamlit apps that we specifically built for you to help you learn ipyvizzu without having to learn the syntax and the logic. So we want to make it so much easier for you to get started. And then we'll show you a couple of examples together with the Python code behind. So like an ipyvizzu chart within Streamlit and also the code for it. So you get the sense of how these two things can work together. And then Zachary built a great app that could help you get started. Also, we wanted to simplify everything, make it easy for you to take your first steps. But as I said, this is a first occasion that we do this. And as such, we would want to get your feedback at the very end. So I just want to give you the early warning sign that I will ask you to fill a form towards the end of this session. Actually, I think towards the end of the frontal part of the session. And then we will have some time for individual work where we would give you all the resources to get started. And then you can actually build your first ipyvizzu apps and like Streamlit apps with ipyvizzu in it, and we'll be here to see you through the whole process. So that's what we have in mind. So let me hi Alan, thanks for stopping by. So let me share once again my screen and show you an app that we built together with Zachary and with David from the Vizzu team, which is called the Vizzu Builder. You can actually go and check it out right away. So it's vizzu-builder.streamlit.app. Now what it does, you can upload your data to it using this control here. For the sake of this presentation, I will just use the sample data by switching on this little switcher here. It shows you what kind of series are there within the data and whether ipyvizzu thinks it's a category or a value. In terms of values, like in terms of the year, which only contains numbers, it can happen that ipyvizzu thinks that it's a value where it should be a category. So we list all the values or the assumed values here for you. And basically with this dropdown, you can change the data type for that data series, that column of the data frame. And so basically at step 3 comes the important or the interesting bit where you basically just select some categories and values from your data frame. Let's start with, I don't know, year encoder, and let's add the item sold here, and the aggregation logic, whether it's sum or mean or max, we're going to stick to sum. And you can actually add everything that you selected on the label. So I'm just going to use items sold, which will make some of the charts crowded, but whatever. And then I just hit create charts. And what happens next, and brace yourself, it's not going to be very fast because there are a lot of things happening in the background, is that, and you can actually expect some error messages to appear, these which don't seem to show up right now, but don't worry. Oh yeah, this one, you don't have to worry about that too. It just means that there are a lot of things happening in the background. But basically after some time, a list of charts, Vizzu charts, appear here. And it basically gives you all the different combinations of the two categories, so the year encoder and the value, the item sold, and all the different charts that we think would make sense to build with Vizzu. And you have them all here right within a single app. And what you can do with these charts is basically you can check out the code that it took for us to create this chart together with the styling. And you can just copy and paste it either by just clicking here or selecting everything, and then you can put it to your own Streamlit app and reuse it there. That's what we're going to do later on. Or you can just put it in a notebook and reuse it over there. You have to change is the reference to the data file. But with the sample app, you don't even have to deal with that because we set up everything that way. The other thing you can do here is just add these charts to a story, basically just by, and then again, it slows down a bit because things happening in the background. So you can just click on some of these charts and add them to a story each time something is happening in the background. And what actually does happen, we are going to reveal that right away. So basically, there is an ipyvizzu story being created right beneath the charts. Here we go. So here's the story. It's going to appear the last one right away. So it has already 4 slides because I clicked on the add to charts, add chart to story button on 4 of the slides, and it basically contains all of these charts that I clicked on. And you have again the automated animated transitions beneath the slides that you added there. This one might not look that good, but you know, we are early stage in that regard. You can delete the last slide. You can download the story similarly to the first example that I showed you, so as a separate HTML file. And you can also just check out the code for the whole story. Basically, one slide is again contains everything that can be seen on the chart. It's a little bit more verbose because it's a generic thing, so a lot of default things are being explicitly set. But we think it's the easiest way to get started with Vizzu without having to understand this whole abstract syntax of adding different data series to axes and channels. So we hope that this will help you get started with Vizzu. And again, you can copy and paste this code to your notebook, to rearrange the slides, to change the styling, to add new slides, and whatever you prefer. You can also just, change the settings around here. So for example, filter the data frame on, well, let's say the coder, meaning that, again, dynamically another Streamlit control appears, and I'm going to just remove Q3 for the sake of this presentation. I update the charts, and then what happens on all of the charts is that yeah, I think it should be, yeah, maybe I haven't clicked on it properly, so that all the markers that belong to Q3 will just be removed from these charts. So as you can see, they all the yellow bits vanished from every chart. And if you add the newly updated charts to your story, you can have these really neat transitions of something being filtered out. So you can zoom on specific bits. I really like this zooming effect of the filter. It's important to understand that in an animated charting fashion, filtering equals to zooming to certain parts. So this is one of the apps that we wanted to show you and would expect for you to use it and to jumpstart your learning experience. The other one is you can find it at the intro to Vizzu and Streamlit app. And these are some examples from basic to, as you can see, this is a multi-page app. It has 8 pages with different, first simple and then more complex examples of ipyvizzu, of Streamlit apps in ipyvizzu. So let me just show you the code for this app right beneath the app itself. We're importing pandas and Streamlit here, and we don't use ipyvizzu, but rather Streamlit Vizzu, the component that Zachary built. But we import the same thing, so config data and style, and instead of chart, we have a Vizzu chart object, but it's basically the same as the chart in ipyvizzu. And we create first an empty chart. And then we create a very simple data frame with one categorical and one numerical series, so X, Y, Z, and 1, 2, 3. We create, once again, an empty data object. We add the data frame to the data object, and we add that data object to the chart with the animate method. And basically, it's just we use the animate method 2 times. This is the initial configuration where the category, the XYZ, is on the x-axis, and then we set the chart, and instead of a horizontal, sorry, a vertical bar chart or column chart, we get to a proper bar chart like this. And then if I remove this checkbox, then we get back to the column chart. And this part, it's to showcase the bidirectionality of the thing, meaning that if I click on any of the charts, then the value of the click bar is being shown here. It enables some really neat interactive features, which I'm going to show you just one example of before giving the floor back to Zachary. So another example would be, and we would expect you to build simple apps like this one for the sake of the uh, like this tutorial, is when we have a slider. Again, it's the music revenue data, and if I change the slider, we show the app shows the data for that year, that specific year. And so I talked a little bit about the zooming bit. So again, it's basically just utilizing the filtering uh, part of ipyvizzu. We once again import everything we need. We read the CSV file now, so but it's basically just a standard pandas thing, and then we create the chart. But this is where we add the slider, a Streamlit slider that reads its value, its set value to the variable called year. We set the min and a max value and the default value. And then we have on a single animate method here where the data, the filter bit is set in a way that the record, so the year value of the data frame records should equal to the year set here. And then we just create a group bar chart. Here we use the config bit a little bit differently. We have these presets where the revenue is in the x-axis, the format on the y-axis. It's grouped by format so that all of them have different colors, and it's sorted by value. It's easy as that. And then, yeah, and we also set the title in this based on this function so that in year, so the actual, the selected year is from the slider is being updated. So the title is being updated by the year selected in the slider. We have some style settings like adding a color palette. Once again, it's not that interesting. And then we set, this is the animation option where we just made it so that the chart reacts instantaneously. There's no delay. And then we call this chart show method so that the chart is being updated all the time when the slider changes. And that's it. So again, in 50 lines of code, you created an interactive, animated chart that makes it easy for everyone to play around and understand how much revenue different music formats generated in different years. And lastly, the drill down example is to showcase how the bidirectionality could be used. Is like it shows once again the total of the music revenues. And if you click on any of these columns representing 1 year of data, then we'll zoom into that year, and then we drill down and show the components of that year. So the music formats for the specific year side by side. And if I click on anywhere else, then we zoom back to the original view. And so how we do such an how we build such an app with Streamlit Vizzu is basically there's nothing interesting in this bit. We create the style as a separate object that we add to the chart later on. Yeah, this one is a specific event handler that seems to not run this time, so it's not that important. We set the tooltip to true. This tooltip is what's being shown on the chart elements if you move your mouse over. So basically, I think there's like one specific bit here. Um, yeah, so we set the rerun on click to true, meaning that whenever you click on the chart, it's something Zachary added there. Then the chart is being yeah, it's being reanimated. And so basically, what we do here is that there is a bar clicked um, value that we get from with this chart get method, where we read basically the year from the marker that's being clicked, the year value. And then what you do here is that if bar clicked is none, so if there is no bar that is being clicked, then we build this chart that you can see here. And if a bar is clicked, then we apply the filter so that the record year equals to the bar clicked. And I also added this bit where the record revenue should not be zero. Otherwise, just like with the slider app, we would also show music formats that for that specific year equals to zero, like in 1997 download, streaming, and DVD. And so in the drill down bit, it's a little more advanced that you only see the values, so the music formats for which the value is greater than zero. So it looks better. And so what you need to see here is that in the else part, the chart animate method is actually called twice. So first it just zooms into that specific bar, and then in the second bit, it creates the this grouped uh, version, the group column where we show the components. And if I click anywhere else, then this part is being rerun so that that we see all the data, and the data filter is emptied out, and that's about it. So these are some easy examples to get started with when you want to understand how Vizzu works. That's for the builder app to use for, and then how to implement it within Streamlit. That's the intro to Vizzu and Streamlit app is for. You can obviously find the code in on GitHub. I think you should have the GitHub link also for yourself if you see it. But Zachary might correct me on that. It might be because I'm one of the creators of this app. Okay, back to you, Zachary.
Okay. There's a few different questions that have been asked in the chat, so keep asking those. I think I've answered the ones that are on there. But yeah, check out the chat, and
Yeah,
you can
I
also use
will.
the
Thank you.
Q&A function
Mhm.
as well. But yes, that what Peter said was correct. For any app on Community Cloud that's based on a public repo, as this one is, you should be able to click on that little GitHub button to see it. So I want to show you today. We really want you to get started and get your hands dirty. So we tried to make a good way to do that. And so what you have here is PyData-global.streamlit.app. It's a very exciting app. You see it's got two pages here. One of them has a very exciting toggle on it, and the other is, and I think Peter mentioned this, and you saw an example of this, but one of them also has this racing bar chart style. And the reason specifically it created this was not to is not really to show off those particular things. I think the intro Vizzu is shows kind of some more advanced ways that you can use these things, but this is meant to be a kind of a template app for you to get started today. So instead of looking at um, the app itself, let me click here and look at the code. Actually, let me see if I can switch the URL and keep sharing it. All right, there we go. It opened a new tab, but okay. So this is the Stream Vizzu PyData Global repo, and if you look in here, what you'll see is there's one Python file in the top level folder, a bunch of CSVs of some sample data, and then a pages folder that has the racing.py. The Most important thing I want to show you today is the README. So we want to give you the opportunity to try this out, to play with it, to make your own Vizzu app today during this tutorial. And so, apologize. Um, One of the things that Streamlit Community Cloud has recently enabled is that you can actually take an app and you can fork an app using GitHub code spaces, so that without installing anything locally, you can work. You can make a version of your app, have the editor in the browser, and just play with it there, and then you can go and share it from there. There are going to be two requirements, and I forgot to add these to the README, but the two things you'll have to do is you will need a GitHub account. Hopefully, many of you have one of those already. If not, it's pretty easy and straightforward to create one. And you'll also need to create an account at share.streamlit.io, which again is pretty easy. And you could just you can create it using your GitHub account. So if you don't have those, you will need those to actually get started. Once you've done that, um, this shows you step by step what you can do to make your own Streamlit Vizzu app. And actually, we're gonna hopefully have some time at the end to show off some of the things that you've made. So if you click this button here, open in GitHub code spaces, it will open up and it'll give you the opportunity to create a fork of this app. You can call it what you can change the repo name if you no, actually maybe you can't, but you can change the URL if you want. It gives you some gobbledygook URL, or just leave it as is. But this URL will be live and shareable at after you've built this, and you can share your work that way. So if you hit the fork button, it does take a little bit of time to spin up to create. It'll fork the repo, copy all the code. So you'll have all these CSVs, you'll have all the Python files, and it will also create a code space. So code space it's a for all intents and purposes, it's Visual Studio Code running in your browser, where you don't have to install anything. It'll automatically install, in this case, what I have in my requirements.txt file, which if you look at it, it's not terribly exciting. It just has one line that says install Streamlit Vizzu. So it'll install those things, and you create new code space, and after a minute or two, you should see something like this. So you'll actually see an editor on the left, and actually it'll open to the README by default, but you can also look at the Streamlit app.py. And it does take a few seconds. So once it pops up, you'll probably just see the editor, and then a few seconds later, maybe 30 seconds or a minute, it'll open up in the editor browser. So you get this side-by-side view of the code on the left and the app on the right. And so this is a pretty cool thing. You don't have to install anything locally, and you have this to work with. If you want to work locally, that's great. You can clone the repo, work locally. You can do that as well. But we just wanted to make it easy. We wanted to make it easy to do it without doing any of that. So the other thing, the next step we're going to have you do is go back to that builder app. So you saw the link. Peter showed you how that's used. So in this repo, there's a bunch of different CSVs. Here's the one that is used in that's the sample data by default. If you just want to use this, but there's also ones about music sales, and there's ones about superhero powers and curse words in Tarantino movies and world population stuff. So you can pick one of those that looks interesting. Go to the app. So download the CSV, upload it there in the app, and then choose which columns you want to treat as the categories and which ones you want to treat as values. Remember that you have to pick at least one of each, and then hit the update charts button. And just like Peter showed you earlier, you'll see a whole bunch of different charts. And so you'll see a bunch of different charts. And if you like a particular one, you can go to that one and then choose. You can click on this little expander that says show code, and then click on this button, this little hover thing that appears to copy the code, and you can then go back to your code spaces and create a new file. So this is an editor. On the left side of the editor, there you can click on the pages folder and click new file, and you can just call that mychart.py. You'll notice sometimes you'll see this with Streamlit apps where you'll have pages that have a number in front. In fact, we've changed this one to have a number in front. The only reason for the number at the beginning of, so in this case, I think it's called, 02 racing.py. That's optional, but it's just a way to specifically order them in a certain order, and it won't show up in the it won't show up in the name here. It'll just say, in this case, my chart. One of the things might catch you up is when you change the code on the left, you won't necessarily see it updated right away on the right. You actually need to hit the R button. It has something to do with the way code spaces doesn't actually save the files or something. I'm not really sure, but should be pretty straightforward. If you just hit if you click in the browser again on the right and hit the R button, that'll tell Streamlit, hey, this is, reload the latest code. So you should see this pretty quickly pop up, a my chart file. And here you have the exact chart that you copied and created from the Builder app, and it's now in your app. And I wanted to show you. Let me give you an example specifically of one way this can be used. So this is the main page that you'll see if you go to PyData-global.streamlit.app. This is the code behind that, and essentially this is just the code that you would get from the Builder app. So this chart.animate and it does a filtering. In this case, it doesn't filter it at all. It does some config and some styling. A lot of this is optional. You could do this a bit simpler, but the dynamic part really comes down here. So this is a pattern I often use for these, and that's one of the reasons why I gave you this is you'll do the initial animate to set up kind of the default chart that you want to show people. And then if you have widgets, like in this case, we have a toggle. So remember that in Streamlit, widgets just give you a variable, and that variable is whatever the widget is. So this is sd.toggle. It's that little neat left-right toggle button, like a checkbox, but it looks a little nicer for something like this. And if the toggle is turned on, then this branch will, so it'll sort by value, and it'll sort by none. And just to do that real quick again, just to make it clear what's going on there. That's what causes this. So the first animate sets up this basic chart, and then the second animate, it either filters by or orders by the total, or it orders by nothing. So essentially, going back to the code, essentially it will either do nothing if you do this, or it will order by value. So that's really the way you can have a Streamlit widget and interact with it, and have it. Sorry. All right, and last thing I want to show you, which it says to do this in the README, but just to make it explicit, essentially this is the same code, except we've added a year slider. So in this case, there's only 3 years of data, so it's not super exciting. And then we call it data.filter. And one of the things that you'll notice is that, and there's a few different fancy options being passed here, but you can pass it multiple objects. So like a config in this case, which changes the sorting. You can also pass a filter that filters the data. This is kind of the syntax of filtering the data. And then at the end, I do that show. These other arguments are really optional, but they help show some of the more advanced things. So this link is I can post it in the chat again, but this is really we actually want you to we want you to do this. We want you to get started and try it out today. So let me pass it back to Peter if he wants to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, great. I love how straightforward this thing can be. I really hope you can make good use of it, folks. And I think it's so like for the remaining part of the session, we would like you to try it out, like what we built for you, and try and build your first Streamlit app with ipyvizzu chart in it. I actually added a couple of links in the resources page that should be suitable. But if there's something missing, Zachary, just please add that too. And yeah, so but there's the minimal server. Oh yeah, the builder repo. I guess that would also be necessary to get started. And so we had a discussion with Jim and Prashant, because obviously we haven't used this air meet before, and we didn't know what to expect with the arrangement of the virtual tutorial in a way that you can work independently but still reach out for our support. And we figured we will create breakout rooms, um, 11 of them to be more specific. So there'll be 6 people in each room. And if anybody needs help, so you'll be assigned to these rooms randomly, and you can work there with 5 fellow participants, and you can obviously ping each other for some support. But you can also just come here to the main session and leave like a request for support in the chat. We don't really know how this works, but we will hope to get to you soon enough. And so we still have more than 30 minutes left from this session, and we hope that we will have a joint Q&A session towards the very end, where we would be delighted to see some of you showing us your first interactive Streamlit apps that you built using everything that we prepped for you. So I think yeah, you might want to take like a 1 minute break and sip some water or visit the toilet or something, because now comes the part where we stop talking and you get to do the work on your own. And it seems like Jim wants to add something as well.
Nope, I'm just saying, let me know and I'll hit the breakout rooms.
Yeah, I mean, is there any questions or comments about everything that's being shared so far that we should address together or discuss as a group? I don't see any new comments or questions in the Q&A session or in the chat window, but feel free to ask anything you want from us. Or yeah, I'll just give you a minute. And I'll also start to campaign for you to give us your opinion. So if you have like 1 minute or two that you want to spend with something else, or you're done with experimenting with the app building part and you just want to wait for the joint Q&A, there's a bit.ly link that will redirect you to a Google feedback form. It would take 2-3 minutes of your time to fill. As an early stage startup with open source tools, it's crucially important for us to understand what you think about what we do and to get your feedback. So and you can also sign up for a quick interview with me or somebody else from our team. And also me and Zachary, we would want to learn how to improve what we did today. That would be awesome if you could spend a couple of minutes. It's kind of like the way to appreciate our efforts here. But first things first, you should be trying to build, if you want an app, a Streamlit app with ipyvizzu chart in it. So I think, yeah, let's get started with the breakout room bit and see how it goes.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, so this is our room. Looks like there's now 7.
Okay, so everybody else is gone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should be able to see on the right side. I think if you click on the breakout room
Breakout
icon,
rooms.
yeah, you can see who's in which room. And then
Okay. Okay. So everybody.
Looks like
Sorry, Zachary, I don't hear that.
sorry, I just said
What
it.
did you say?
I was looking at the people in session, and it looks like people are back in the. Looks like it worked.
Yeah. Okay. So welcome back to the main session, everybody. Thanks. I mean, we'd love to hear some success stories, or if you had any chance to actually build something, we might even be able to give you the floor to show it. Or if you have any questions, this might be the best time to edit either in the Q&A part or in the chat bit. We still have like 8 minutes from this session. I will keep pursuing you to fill out the feedback form either in the next 8 minutes or maybe after the session, because that's really valuable for us to understand what you thought about everything that happened here and yeah, our tool and what you would actually want to do with it. But yeah, so I'll just shut up for a bit and let you do the talking, or just share any questions or comments you might have. Mm-hmm. How does the sample app decide on the aggregation function? Looks like it's using a sum, but how could that be changed? Yeah, so this is the aggregation logic. The sum is the aggregation logic by default. But I mean, let me really quickly try and find the part in our documentation side that shows you how you can change that. And I'll give the floor. So if you have any other questions, just add it there, and I'll come back with the link to that specific feature.
One thing that's helpful is you can
Yeah.
actually use the Builder app to figure that out. So let me show this. So this is what the Builder app. I clicked sample data and I just picked a couple columns. And if I look here to see the code, it's a little verbose because, as Peter mentioned, it's setting a bunch of things that are kind of default. But if I change this to mean, I hit update charts, you'll see them update. And so here you see where it does mean items sold. And if I change it to min, there you can see this changes to min items sold. So it's in the config when you set the Y. You can change it that way in this dictionary. So that's a helpful thing. This is a helpful thing for also learning the syntax. And
Zachary, you're brilliant. Even better with teaching Vizzu syntax than myself. So thanks. But I added that one chapter from the tutorial of ipyvizzu that talks about this thing specifically. But yeah, we try to cram everything inside the Builder app that could come useful, such as sorting and changing the aggregation logic and whatnot. So yeah, but that was a great question, Brandon. Thanks a lot for adding that. And if anybody has any other questions, we still have some time.
did anybody manage to build anything interesting they'd like to show? I know it wasn't a ton of time to get started.
Is there a way to sort the superheroes by height? Great question. How do I leverage specs between graphs like, say, colors? So I just changed bars to red, but in two files. Okay, so let's try and go one by one. So superheroes by height. Yes, it's the heroes information CSV. So we have height there. Yeah, so you just need to add height to your chart and then sort by value. It's actually also in the Builder app. So Zachary, you can, if you want to show it, because I don't have
Does
it
it
right in
have
front of
does it
me.
have height?
Yeah, it
No.
should. The superhero's information, sorry, the hero's information CS, we should have height, but only there's like one toggle for sorting by value in the Builder app that switches this on if you want to. But also, I guess in the sample apps there are a ton of. It's just you need to have that value on the chart, uh, and then it will sort the markers based on that. If you have two values and you create a scatter plot or something, then that doesn't make any sense, so it won't work anymore. And how do I leverage specs between graphs like, say, colors? So you changed bars to red, Brian. How you added some category to the color channel, or I'm not sure how you did it. But if you did that, say like adding a category, like in the superhero bit, for example, gender, which is a category, to the color channel, then you just need to add the same category on each of these charts, each of these graphs, to the color channel, and they will have the same color. So that's the only thing you need to keep an eye out for, to have the same category or the same categories in the same order. What are the technical considerations required to integrate ipyvizzu for on-cloud visualization report capabilities such as Azure? Okay, I guess this is a time where I just come out as a non-technical person. So the honest answer is I don't know. But Zachary, but I mean, this is the link to our Slack workspace, and if you join there, there'll be our tech team ready to help you. But Zachary might have a thing or two to say. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So
I'll come back to Brian, but I'll answer this question first.
So in terms of integrating it into there's a couple, for example, you've seen it used in Jupyter Notebooks, you've seen it used in Streamlit apps. Those are the two that I'm most familiar with. If you have those and are running you certainly can run those inside of Azure. So that we have people who run and host their own Streamlit apps, for example, inside of Azure, or host their own, have some kind of Jupyter hosting tool. And so beyond that, I mean, it is a JavaScript library. So if you wanted to use the JavaScript library under the hood, you could just host it the way you host any sort of web app on your. So yeah, it depends what you have available.
So Peter and Zachary, there's only 1 minute left.
Cool.
We can close the session. The chat will
Yeah,
stay
let's
alive.
wrap it up.
Yeah, so you can stay and chat with the attendees, but the recording is going to stop. Thank you so much for the session.
Okay, yeah.
It was very informative.
Thanks very much, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I hope you had a great time. Again, please fill out the follow-up, the feedback form, and just join the Slack, and then both of us will be there to follow up with the conversation. And thank you for taking through the 90 minutes, all of you. It was a great pleasure to do this.
Thank you all.
Zachary, would you want to add something?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you all.
okay. Thank you.